Well, thanks very much, Pimento, for hosting the second webinar from Now Next Why. So we really appreciate everyone attending today. And thank you for anyone who obviously attended the one that we ran a couple of weeks ago. Today is very much, it is called Punching Up Your Proposition, which is a really exciting topic and something we're very passionate about, and hopefully you'll find really insightful. I'm one of the directors at Now Next Why. Very much focusing on client process, client service, built and run agencies, and very much why I'm now working with the Now Next Why team. And Owen, do you want to quickly come in and introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, hi everybody, I'm Owen, I'm one of the co-founders of Now Next Why. And as Lisa says, we're very focused on everything from proposition through to growth and scaling businesses, and we kind of feel that the proposition is the foundational thing that can unlock an awful lot of different aspects of your business, all different cogs that can help that growth. So we'll take you on a little journey through some of the ones we've done and some of the implications for that, as I'm sure you're all keen to hear about it as you come on the call.
Yeah. So where are we? Let's have a look. We are 9:02, so I think we will crack on if that's okay, guys. So if we can just go to the next slide. I will say hello, we've already done that. But today we are going to take you through a very little bit about us, because I'm conscious we did quite a bit about us at the last session for any of you who attended that as well, but for anyone who didn't and doesn't know us, it does give you a little bit of an insight about who we are. Then we're going to walk through what is an agency proposition, why it matters, what we feel really makes a good one, and the approach to developing and rebooting yours. And then the real sort of keys that we feel are absolutely essential to maximising the proposition's impact for your business. And then we've got plenty of time for Q&A at the end. We will be sharing this presentation post the session. So if you miss any elements or anyone couldn't attend, please share that to anyone that you wish. And there will also be a recording of today as well. So don't feel you need to take notes or anything like that. Okay, fine. So as we said, the last session was around building a better agency. That was much more a sort of holistic view of all the different stages, quite top line, but a good introduction to lead us into the session today and to get into far more detail about the proposition topic. Okay. But firstly, just very briefly, as I mentioned, just a little bit about us. So we are a specialist agency advisory founded by founders. Everybody within Now Next Why has founded agencies, run agencies, and sold their own agencies. And we all went on that journey, and we all felt that there was a lot of support that we just didn't get that would have been great if we had been able to get it. And I think that's very much the angle that we take. And that's at any point on your journey. It's not just about an exit strategy or whether you're just starting up. You know, you might be in year 1 or year 3. It's all around, you know, growth on that journey and what support at what point you may need. So that's very much where we come from, hence the from scale to sale. And that's growth advisory at any point along your journey, right through to M&A advisory, exit strategy, and a possible exit and sale. So as I say, it's very much end to end, and it's very much a holistic view. I think certainly from our experience that we all went through, there was a huge amount around profitability, which is hugely important, obviously, but many other elements within the agency and that are so key were actually forgotten about. Yeah, what about your people? What about your IP? Your culture? These are things that absolutely are essential along your journey and hugely important internally for people retention, for getting good clients, but also when you're looking at an exit strategy as well and a final evaluation, because you know it's far more than just the commercials. And I think that's really the sort of a big piece of insight around what we feel, the angle we take and how we behave to any brief. We're very agile, we're very tailored, you know, and as I say, it's not a fixed process. It's about what you need and when you need it, hence the holistic view. Okay. And then we've just thought it'd be useful to share just some of the current projects that we're working on. So we're currently advising on a large PR and social agency on their positioning, very pertinent, but value proposition and growth planning, which is very much what we'll be talking about today. We're also advising on the sale of a SaaS business with some American buyers. So it just gives you, I'm not going to walk through all of these, but it gives you a real breadth of the types of clients and the types of projects that we are currently working on. And as I say, that they're all very different. You know, it's not one size fits all by any stretch. And I say our sort of focus and tailoring enables us to be very broad, depending on the types of clients and what you need and when you need it. But what I'm going to do now is hand over. No, I'm not quite. Sorry, I'm too quick there.
That's all right. Talk to tailoring.
Yeah. So it sort of builds on the tailoring that we said. So we have a whole bench of specialists, all from very, very different backgrounds. So what you don't get is a fixed consultant if you were working with us. You know, we look at your brief, we look at what you need, and that the right person for the right brief will be working with you. And that might change along the journey, because we're very much about long-term partnerships rather than quick fix solutions. So as I say, that there's a whole breadth of people here, you know, with very big sort of significant M&A, strategy and delivery backgrounds, to more operational and commercial backgrounds, tech backgrounds. And myself, it's very much sort of client partnerships and process. So as you can see, hugely broad. But Owen is very much our expert, which I'm sure he won't mind me saying, within the proposition, strategy and planning space. And he's now going to walk you through a lot more about how we approach our sort of proposition development, which hopefully you'll find really interesting. And then I'll come back to me in a moment. So
Thanks,
over to you, Owen.
Thank you very much. So what is an agency proposition? Let's start there. It's generally everyone thinks they know, but it's probably worth defining some terms. So it's a cliche, but it is your North Star. It's what you do, it's how you do it, it's where you're going. I think we often talk about value propositions and brand propositions. In our experience, what you're looking for is a kind of hybrid. You're looking for something that sums up the value you bring to a client, but also the value you bring to your teams and how you manifest that out to the world. And that's why it's so important. It really does knit everything together. It is your organizational DNA. In 4 words, you're trying to capture everything about your business. You're trying to galvanize what brings your teams, your tools, your sell, your clients together, what makes you tick. So very often, the proposition is the sort of pointy end of a lot of thinking, a lot of work, but it's got to work hard for you. And why do this? So I think, as we referred to at the beginning, we look at your business in the round and look at all the different drivers inside it that can create value. And we feel the proposition is the kind of foundation for that type of approach. Without a strong proposition, everything else is kind of on shaky ground. You know, how do you define your culture if you don't know what your proposition is? How do you invest in new products or IP if you don't know what your core value is to a client? So we believe that strong foundations build a stronger agency. It's not, the proposition is not simply a statement of the value you bring, nor is it just your culture. It's everything. It has this holistic impact, and it will pay back if you get it right. So very often, you know, it's hard, isn't it? We've all been there. Lisa and I've been there. You're running a business, you're running at 100 miles an hour, and you're also always looking at the numbers every month and every quarter. Investing time in this kind of thing and investing money in it can often seem like, you know, maybe it's something that should be pushed to the side, but actually we believe it's really fundamental, and you will get a return on it. Some examples. An example of a business that we work with. I've known Love & Breathe a very long time. They're an agency in Leeds and London, and actually now in Amsterdam. And we help them reboot. They're a retail agency historically, and obviously the retail landscape's evolved, and they needed to, and they kind of needed to put themselves back on the map. So we built the proposition for them, and that was at the time, when I'll talk about how it's evolved a bit later, all about sort of recommitting marketing's value and explaining that marketing really should be about selling. And a lot of agencies had forgotten that, and actually this business understood it implicitly and can offer commercial value back to clients. So we talked about it as sell hard, sell smart, sell beautiful. That was the capturing of the 3 pillars of the business: sell hard in terms of numbers, sell smart strategically, and sell beautiful through, you know, essentially add value to brand through execution and creativity. And that very simple line set them up in a completely different way. It helped them unlock how to talk about their people. Every person in the business was a cell raiser. It helped us think about different productization and building out different aspects of the business in terms of e-com, as well as also, you can see in the bottom right, started to build a production arm, make and do, and thinking about a group. So from what we got there, 6 words, an awful lot falls, and it was extremely valuable to them at the time. And you'll see a bit when we talk about iteration, you'll see the new version. So why does it matter? Well, I've alluded to that already, but it's about creating value. It's about understanding and building value for now and the future. It should be value additive to your agency profile and your distinction in the marketplace, to the output, to the creative product, to the reputation. It should be value additive to your people. We know how hard that is at the moment. So actually the right proposition can make a big difference to how you look to a potential recruit and why they stay with you. Your processes, your tools, your IP, again, why that should all be talking back to an organizing thought. And it should also really help with your new biz generation and conversion. So it should impact the bottom line in the short term. It should support growth and ultimately help to increase the multiple any future acquirer might pay. And we're not focusing on that. That's not the purpose of this. This is about the foundation. But you should have one eye on what that foundation is going to lead to. So it's definitely worth investing in. I know, you can start to think about normalizing some of these expenditures out over time as well. For example, we worked with a business called Circle to develop their proposition. They are a PR business with 3 divisions, a corporate, a retail, and a consumer, and they're employee-owned, or majority employee-owned at the time. Problem was that the 3 divisions didn't really have a galvanizing, organizing thought to unite them, and the team were looking for potential exit opportunities. So we worked with them to find a kind of common thread that would unite those 3 divisions and almost create some greater value for the business. And we hit upon this principle of purpose being an organizing thought for PR, that corporate clients need purpose with a large P, being nurtured and curated, and then FMCG brands and retailers who support those brands often have a purpose with a small p at their heart. The Unilevers of this world, which is all of the clients that they work with. And so we actually said, why don't we position and bring the business together under purpose relations? PR's role is to manage purpose, big P and small p, from the corporate table to the shelf of the retailer, and that put the business at the top table. So PR very often is not at the top table in strategic decision making. This gave them a reason to be there, and it gave the 3 divisions a reason to work together. And really the reason this case study is in here is because it also then gave them a compelling narrative to go to market with, and they were bought by Huntsworth. So a good example of a proposition adding value. Next one, this is another example. So this is identity. Probably the largest events agency you haven't heard of, I imagine. They are outside of imagination, one of the biggest in the UK, if not now, nearly across the world, certainly in EMEA and the Middle East. They develop events, large scale events. They did COP and things like that. We engaged with them during COVID and beyond, where the owner, Michael, was very clear that everything was going to be hybrid well, certainly digital during COVID for events. And it was a hard time for them, but he recognized that it was a sensible time to invest ahead of the curve in a proposition to be right for when things reopened. So we worked with them to create the Human Experience Agency, HX. That was the idea, to navigate the waters that were opening up and that were going to become the new norm of face-to-face events being linked with much more digital experiences, and actually that being both a UX problem and a CX problem through space and through digital. To create HX, which is a bit of language that was sort of being talked about in the space, and they've taken ownership of. So they became the Human Experience Agency. It really helped them through COVID, and it helped them to invest in things like VR studios, XR. But also over time, it's given them a really strong marketplace position, and they have gone on to absolutely great things. They're now very, very big. So what makes a good proposition? 3 things to remember. You, true and ambitious. It can't be nonsense. It has to be you. A proposition has to come from somewhere. that's inside your business. You've got to feel comfortable with it, you as owners and leaders and founders. And it's also got to be something you can defend. Therefore, it's got to be true. It's got to be something that feels honest and credible. And it's got to have a bit of ambition. And quite often we say to clients, it's got to make you feel a bit uneasy. Because if it's too kind of safe, it's not going to do much for you in the long term, and nor will it do too much for the marketplace, in the marketplace. And two things that are very, very important is clarity and cut through. First of all, the whole point of a process to develop a proposition or reboot your proposition is to get clarity. It needs to bring clarity to the agency and anyone who engages with it. It has to be easy to get. You've got to be able to sell it, and you've got to be able to act upon it. If it feels hard, or if it's too tricksy, it can be a rod for your own back, or it could be something you can't live up to, the antithesis of ambition. And it could become a bit of a cul-de-sac over time. So you've got to be clear and create clarity. And it's also got to deliver cut through. It's got to help you stand out in the sea of agencies. Why you? What makes you interesting? Why change from my current supplier if I was a client? And as we said, and it's got to create distinction. You can't be vanilla. It's hard to be like everyone talks about, I want to be completely different. It's quite hard to do that. The reality is that you've got to try and find points of distinction. You've got to try and find the things that make you stand out. And we'll talk about where to mine in a minute, but don't be vanilla. And then you've got to be brave and ambitious. You've got to set the bar. And as we said, if it feels a bit uncomfortable, it's probably right. And it should power your sell now and the future. As we talked about, the impact of these things, it should inform your creds. I mean, very often we'll go through a process, we'll build the proposition, and the first thing we should do as an best action is what's that 10-slide sell? Because once you've got that selling story, you have all the key building blocks to start to think about your other comms areas. So how are we going to then take that and cut it up for web, etc.? It should affect product, process, NPD, recruitment. Again, the after creds, it's starting to think about road mapping and pulling that through into the different aspects of the business, analysing where we're weak, where's the gaps, how can we support that over time. And as we said, the prop doesn't necessarily come from your service. You're a PR social business. There's lots of those. So you can't build the proposition necessarily out of your offering. What you can build it out of is the way that you approach it, or perhaps you've built a bit of IP that's completely different that you can really help you stand out. It might be culture, and we're working with a business that is female founded and run, and with the whole proposition is built out of being progressive. It's about a cultural thing rather than about a particular skill set. It could be about market dynamics. It could be you've just seen a gap and that's what you're going to go for. So we would always encourage you guys and anyone we work with to look at the business, looking around and be open to where that prop might come from. And so, for example, we worked with Quickfire, Mentor members, and they are they were and still are, but they were a kind of digital e-com business, and we helped them build a proposition really out of culture. And the service we decided that they should specialize on Shopify Plus, which is important, and they have that accreditation. So that's something that as a service line and a skill set is differentiated. But how to package that up, there's quite a few Shopify Plus agencies, actually, let's try and find a cultural angle. And that was because they were a small, growing, hungry team. And the service they provide was for like-minded clients. They were very right for scale-hungry clients who were on a journey and wanted to grow quickly through their Shopify expertise. And this mirroring of fast-growing e-commerce specialists for scale-hungry businesses really worked very well for them. And so that's a good example of it. They had the skill, but we had to find a cultural way of finding a sort of a fresh way of talking about that kind of service line to a particular client base. So how to approach building or rebooting your proposition. The clues in our name, we would always start with why. So as we said, it's going to be you, true and ambitious. So why as founders and owners have you set this up? Why are you here? What was your catalyst for doing it? That's a good place. Why the sector needs you. Why very often agencies are very inward. And actually the first thing you should be doing is thinking about the clients and the problem you solve for them, and why they should care about you. So as we said, you've got to look outwards. We're very often quite insular. We're focused on ourselves. Look at us. Look at what we do, and putting client benefits at to the fore is very important. Look at what clients are saying they need, what the market's liking, who's winning, who's been bought, and what the landscape looks like and is likely to look like in the coming years. That will also be a very important place to start. Another thing to say, it's not always an easy process. You know, whatever the reason you wanted to think about your proposition, it might be a distressed position. We've got to do something different. It could be actually we've just got a new opportunity. Let's embrace it. It's a chance to take ownership and leadership of your direction. It's a foot on the ball moment, and we shouldn't see it as a distressed decision. It's got to be something that you can seize and take as an opportunity. Let's get the team together. Let's get a core group. Let's embrace it, and let's use it as a chance to reboot. And last thing would be, you've got to be ordered. Again, because we're all busy, it can be very easy to try and shortcut process. It can be very easy to kind of get to the proposition quickly and get to the outputs. There is benefit in going through a process and making sure that you've ticked all the right boxes and that everyone's aligned and that you have the right tools ready to deploy, rather than doing it so quickly that you rush and get it wrong. And the next couple of slides, we're going to talk about some of the ways that we would think about approaching this kind of process, the keys to making it work, essentially.
Thank you, Owen. Well, hopefully, guys, you found that really, really useful. But what we're just going to do now, we've got sort of 6 key points that we want to land that really make sure that if you've gone through this process, you do maximise the impact of what's being created. And that's absolutely essential, because, you know, it's the key to actually making it work, which is, you know, why you're doing it in the first place. So the first thing is, if you're working in this process, it's to keep the team really, really tight. Yeah. What you don't want is the whole agency trying to work on it. Everybody's going to have different points of view, and it'll be really hard to land in that right place. But a small working group and making sure that you're involving leadership, which is essential, the leadership team, is really, really a key point here. And it may sound obvious, but you'd be surprised how many feel that everybody wants to have a point of view. And as I say, that it just doesn't work from our experience. So keep it really, really a small team who are going to own this, love it, and embrace it, and then you'll get the best results. That's the first key point. The second one is then really curating ambassadors for this. So, you know, you've gone on your journey, you're happy with where you've got to, but we now need to create real ambassadors within your agency to get everybody on side. We want everyone talking about this proposition, your positioning in the same way, everyone being consistent and passionate. And ambassadors will enable that within all of their teams, so that they can really sow the seeds and sell that vision really succinctly, and that everyone's then going to start adopting it within your business. And that's really, and again, really, really essential. Okay. And then beyond that, you need to road test it, because obviously you may have got to what you think is a really great place. You've got brilliant ambassadors, but let's not go too far down the track with a new website, all new collateral, if you haven't actually tested it with some of your long-term partnership clients. What do they think? Do they get it? Do they understand it? Have they got any points that they'd like to give back to you that might mean you want to tweak or evolve or change? And this is good for client relations as well, that you show that you trust their opinion. So I think that's really, really essential. You want them on side and on board, and they want to see additional value in it, and maybe opens their mind up to where else they could work with you, you know, where they haven't been before, because they didn't realize, you know, what you do and why you do it. So that's really, really key as well. And then I think, as Owen was talking about as he was going through his session, it's really important to roadmap it. You need to have an understanding of where it's going to go and where's it going to take you in the next 3 to 5 years. Setting goals and milestones, and where you're going to communicate it, which markets, which clients, which teams, really, really important. What you're going to do with it. So there's no point having the best proposition in the world, but you haven't thought about then where you're going to take it and how's it really going to add value, how's it going to drive growth. These are all really, really important points and how's it going to build into your overall business plan? Okay. And then another point, I think, it is being iterate. There's no point having a proposition that won't evolve over time. We need to make sure that it's a really good thought, but it has the flexibility and the agility to evolve over time. You know, so if you do bring in a new product, a new pillar in the business, a new team, that actually this will work and evolve. You don't want something that will only work for, say, 12 months. So that is really, really important. And I think there's a point here, just you want to add on to, Aaron.
Yeah, I mentioned the Live and Breathe case study earlier in this presentation, and I talked about how it's evolved, and it's evolved because they've become more digital over time, as you'd expect. They've invested in some areas in performance, and they've also invested in some proprietary technology around insight and gathering, and we therefore kind of sort of felt they had to kind of take the same essence and build it for more for now and potential with one eye on what the owners might do in a couple of years' time. So we created a different proposition from the same area. We iterated to position them very clearly as an experience and commerce business. So they deliver brand experience through digital and physical, but they also are very commerce orientated, both through traditional retail, but also e-com and all the way that ecosystem has evolved. And in doing that, they're an experience and commerce business. They help clients be more wherever the brand shows up. So they are also very much now involved in digital experiences, in the development of digital product. And therefore, you can see that it's the same foundational point of view around a conversion mindset, a sell hard, sell smart, manifested now for a more grown up and I guess more digital audience. And that has one eye on what they might want to do in terms of exit over time.
Right. Thanks, Em. And then the final point is don't be afraid to seek advice. It's not an easy task to get you to revise or to evolve or to create your new proposition. It might be really, really difficult to see the wood for the trees, because when you're working for other clients' briefs, that's one thing. But when you're having to really look at yourself, when you're busy, to really, really find that right solution, there's no harm in investing in time with an outside advisor who potentially can be more objective, maybe shortcut the process. And this can, be hugely beneficial, because, as I say, you can't underestimate that this is a difficult task to get right, because no one size fits all. Every business is different. Your why, as we talked about earlier, will be different to someone else's. And what are your clients wanting to see? What does the market want to see? So just don't be afraid to get advice on that. And if you get it right, although you may need some initial investment up front to get that support, that will pay back definitely, because then obviously you're there and ready to go to the market with a new, more powerful offering. Okay. So those are our key 6 points we wanted to land. I hope you found that useful. But what we thought at the end, it would just be really quite interesting to sort of see what you can tell us about your proposition, if you're happy to share that, how you're harnessing it, and are there any that you admire? Because it's really interesting to get those perspectives. So if anyone, I'll open it up to you guys. And equally, if there's any other questions that you may have, we're very happy to answer them. And equally, post the session, anything you think of beyond that, we will just please email us and we'd be keen to come back to you. So we'll open it to you guys. If there's any questions, you can just put it into the chat and we'd be very happy to answer.
Or indeed, there may not be.
Well, there might not be.
This is often the way on these things.
There is indeed, which is why I said if you want to follow up after the session, we will be sending out the presentation. There will be a recording of the session. There's our email addresses here. We're very approachable, we like to think. We're very happy to answer any questions that you may have if you don't want to ask them now. Okay. Doesn't look like we do have any questions, Owen, but
that's all right. That's all good. So yeah,
it was so clear. That's
well, I think as you say, it's hopefully you found the session valuable. We are very passionate about this aspect, and we'd very much be open to even just giving some friendly advice. Just drop us a line.
Oh, we do have a quick question here, Owen. So this is probably one for you. I'd be interested to learn more about how the process works for you to help build the value proposition.
Yeah, good question. Thanks, Matt. So we have it's not rocket science, but you won't be surprised to know we have a proprietary process that we have to take agencies through this kind of project. One of the things we found a lot is that you're not always going to get alignment. If you've got boards, if you're working with teams that might be in a position to like, oh, there's a bit of disagreement. It's really important to make sure that you get people on the same page in a sequential manner. So we have a process called the 9 Ps, which is just a playful take on the traditional 4 Ps, but it's deliberately simple and it's designed to take everyone through a series of gates. So, okay, the first thing is, what's our point of view? If we can agree on what our foundational point of view is for the business, that is a really good starting point. Now let's have a look at the people we're working for in terms of clients. What do they need? How does that point of view resonate with them, et cetera, et cetera. So you ladder up to the proposition, and then from the proposition, you would go into the credentials writing. And then from the credentials writing phase, you then start to think about taking ambassadors from different parts of that core team and then different parts of the business to start to build out the key deployment plans. So, okay, we've got the creds written, but now what we probably might need to do is think about a rebrand. So we're going to have to bring the creative team on board and we're going to have to get them thinking about it. We've got to start thinking about how we're going to communicate this to the outside world. So we're going to set up a little hit squad for the building out of the creds, the website, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not one size fits all in terms of deployment. It might be that there's no need for a rebrand, but once you've got the core proposition and the core narrative, you have the tools then to go off and disseminate. And I guess in terms of getting to that 9 Ps, we would generally do stakeholder interviews, team interviews, probably some qual surveys, and probably some quant a little bit, depending on the size of the business. And then we develop a hypothesis, which we share with the core board, the core team. That hypothesis is given a bit of a kick through a workshop. And then using that structure I explained, we then workshop through the gates to get us to the proposition. That was a long answer, wasn't it? Sorry, wasn't meant to be.
No. We've got another question here. This is a good question, actually. So what advice can you give an agency early in their journey without the capital to invest in outside support?
That's a good question. I think I'd go back to that sort of you true ambitious. I would back a horse is the kind of, you've got to pick something and go for it, I think. So try and find something that I wouldn't just be skills orientated. We're a PR agency that helps clients do X or Y. I think that will just be, or an activation agency. I think find something that's inside your DNA as founders, because you're starting up, find that why and use that as the kind of thing that stands out. I'd make it cultural. And then I'd back it and go for it.
I think also that the key points that we landed at the end, if you're not in a position to get outside support, internally make sure that you feel you've got the right team, number of you working on it, the right ambassadors who are going to work with you on it, and potentially bringing in your first couple of clients, because these are all things that will be invaluable to help get you where you want to without, if you haven't got the budget to be bringing in someone external. But taking on those key rules, I think, will really help you to get to the right place. Have we got any other questions? Have we got any other questions, guys? As there were 2 very good questions from very different places.
If not, we can give you some more of your day back. I think we should probably
I think
probably call it.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for everyone who's attended. I hope you found it really useful. We've been delighted to be able to be invited here today. We'll share everything from today, and please reach out if you've got any further questions, and we'll be very happy, as I said earlier, to answer. Okay, and have a good rest of the week.